Welcome everybody to Art of Noise. I'm your host Buck, here with Molly Rose
What's up?
and Corey Thompson.
Hey.
Two photographers, and this is In the Moment. I'm going to start you guys off with a question, and then we're going to get to your intro, to your individual intros, okay? The first question I'm going to ask today is, what's your process to get the person, place, or thing that is in front of the camera or onto the film, chip, or paper in just the way you want? Are you staging? I'm gonna ask this part too. Are you staging and staying within the structure, or are you freestyling and creating the structure? It's a difficult question, but this is how we start this shit. Who wants to go first?
I was gonna say ladies first, but I thought I was gonna be sexist or something.
No.
Yeah, ladies first.
Okay. So I think a lot of times my ideas just come very randomly to my mind, and they almost seem impossible to try to put together based on resources, people, etc. What usually ends up happening is I get frustrated with not being able to get the idea out, that I just kind of wing it and just make it happen. So sometimes I will go into it with the idea of like, this is how I want it to be, this is what I envisioned, the shots that I want, and then kind of what ends up happening is like I start to go with what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing, and it might end up, and most often it will end up quite differently than I imagined, but I like it better.
So that's just walk the path. Corey?
Answer's sort of similar to Molly's. I'm not a big fan of portrait anything, so what happens is if I'm shooting somebody in the studio, and I'll just use this as an example, and they're in there, I'd much rather not let them know that I'm shooting. So I'll let them sit in front of the mezzanine and actually just talk. And as they're talking, then I'll shoot that. But always keeping it the most authentic and the most unadulterated. That was what's so big about this show, In the Moments, how we came up with the title and everything else. I know I'm probably going off, but that's what made this show so important. For me, it's always about the moments. It's not about, when the camera's in your face, you know how to act. But if you don't know the camera's there,
You're going to be yourself.
Exactly.
And that's what you're interested in the moment. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves now. I'm going to start with Corey this time, and then we're going to go back to Molly. Okay, is that fine? Yeah. Okay. Corey, tell us about yourself. Where you from? What do you do? Why do you have
Corey Thompson, originally from Brooklyn. Been living in different cities throughout, up and down 95 since I was small. Father of one. Her name is Coltrane. She's a big influence on why I do photography, why I'm still here, all that.
That's interesting because I actually just clicked that we're actually quite alike, because I'm originally from Washington State and I grew up out there, but I moved to Philly in college, and actually I moved to Baltimore first and then Philly, and now I'm in DC, but I spent a lot of time in New York, so I'm also up and down the 95 like crazy. I'm a mother of one. Her name is Olive Rose. And same thing, like she really inspired me to actually be a professional. And since I've launched a creative agency called Every Rose.
Wow, awesome. That's interesting. I feel like y'all daughters going to end up working together somehow. It's going to be like Olive and Coltrane.
That'll be dope, too. I like that name, too.
That is kind of like, yeah, it's a dope name.
Make sure you get your copyright money on that.
Beautiful name. Next question. I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next question. I'm going to jump ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm really not jumping ahead because it's actually just the next question. Which photographers influenced you, and how did they influence your thinking, photographing, and career path? And we can take our time with these questions because I know I'm doing a little bit of in-depth on you. But really, I really want to know what photographers influenced you, and you know, what is it about them that influenced you? You know, what did you see in their work that actually helped you along?
I think for me, it was more the style. Of course, I got Sneak Shot. I ain't saying that just because she's in this room either.
Shout Shout out to Sneak Shot Photography.
Gordon Parks, Kid Art, 13th Witness, Mel D. Cole. It's a lot of people that influence me, but they influence me sort of like the young rappers. When I saw them interview and what they talked about in their photography and why they got the shots, that what made me actually interested in their work. Because then I could see what they work, how they work meant something to me, or how it taught me. Yeah.
Well, that removes the narrative that we have preconceived as to why and how maybe a photographer shot something.
Right.
Is when you start to learn more about those photographers or artists. And you also, Molly, influences.
That's kind of difficult for me to answer because up until I was an adult when I was shooting, I was just kind of going. My friend and I were photographers, and we would just kind of feed off of each other. And I've always been kind of in a community of artists, and never until I got older and started studying more. I was kind of just feeding off of other people's creative energies and vice versa. And so, everyone kind of went their different ways in their creative space with that. But when I got older and started looking more into concepts, definitely David LaChapelle was a huge one for me to look to try to strengthen layers of concepts and stuff, because that's my favorite style of photography. And then I agree with Kid Art and 13th Witness as for like candid shots and Kid Art's very cinematic. I think that's really cool if you can get your photography to look cinematic, so that's definitely influence as well.
Yeah, it kind of goes along with your style. Cinematic. You look at something like your Pop Smoke photos.
Exactly.
Several over there. Just thinking about that. This is what I do. I'm kind of sore. You know what I'm saying? What is it that you're trying to say with your photos, and how do you actually get your photographs to do that? I'm asking you this first, Molly.
Can you repeat?
I'll repeat that question for you. Exactly what is it that you want to say with your photos, and how do you actually get to the point that they do that? And this goes back to process, but it's kind of, let's dig a little bit deeper on this, okay?
Yeah, so that's actually something that I work on with every picture that I take might not necessarily have an intent behind it other than to capture that moment. But I think and my style really reflects like the candid moment or that feeling. Someone described my work as like the feeling before the moment. And I felt like that really resonated. Because, like I said, I do a lot of conceptual photography, and so depending on what project I'm doing, I might want to portray something else. With my most recent series called Every Rose Has Its Thorns, that really is about showing that you can be or do anything that you want, and you don't have to be boxed in creatively. Whatever your profession is, specifically for me, it just means that I'm a creative, and that doesn't matter if I'm a photographer or a videographer. I should be able to create how I want to. And so I wanted to do that series to try to also inspire other people to not be boxed in, because I do lots of other things in photography as well. So
Shout out to Slash from Guns N' Roses on that one.
yes.
You gotta get that up. Okay, so same question.
Did you read it again?
Yeah. What is it that you want to say with your photographs? How do you actually get your photographs to do that?
It's just the moment. It's just the moments. Just the unadulterated moments. Just when somebody's not paying attention, I feel like that moment speaks to 100 degrees more for me. So it's really just about that. And then the process of actually trying to create the photos, again, it's the journey. So it's just me actually being in front of people, and then letting the moment just come to itself. I'm more of a feeling person.
So this isn't propaganda.
What is it? Yeah.
Your photos.
No,
Okay.
no. But more of it is just
Y'all ain't trying to sell no products on here, except for
No.
yourselves.
No, that's
Not even
it.
yourselves. You're just trying to get
My art.
your art across.
Yeah.
You're trying to express yourself. That's
Yeah.
dope. I mean, that's dope. That's why we want to ask that kind of question here at Art of Noise. We want to find out more about the artists, the photographers, who and what they are.
Nice.
What they want to do.
I like that.
The next question I'm going to ask is we're going to have a technical question. this is the technical part of the competition. Because it's a competition.
A competition.
It's a competition.
Don't do us
Technical
like
comp.
that.
This is an exhibition.
Exhibition.
Yeah,
it's
an exhibition.
Oh my gosh. We're not gonna get into that. What technology, software, camera gear do you use to keep focused on what you do best as a photographer? So what is there like a particular type of camera, any particular software you're using that is helping you get what you're trying to get across? Like, are you know, what kind of camera? I actually don't know what kind of cameras you either use. I know I use a Sony A7 when I shoot.
That was a plug for the February.
I'm actually not using photos. She's the only one shooting. Sneak Shot is the only person that will be shooting photos for the February show. Because my photos are a little bit explicit.
That's bull.
That's a joke.
That's art.
That's art. Let's start with you again, Molly. What kind of camera gear are you using?
I just purchased a Nikon Z6 this year. I've always used Nikon because for me the difference was just like the hues and the white balance of the photos. So I've used Canon before, and I wasn't able to capture the feeling I really wanted. I've been using Nikon since college, but honestly, I started on 35 millimeter film. I had this point and shoot, which I actually have with me now, the one I grew up using since I was a kid. So what I kind of did is I have my work camera, which is now the Z6. I also have a D7100, and I use Lightroom to edit my photos, but to try to keep enjoying taking pictures, not just as a profession, but as a creative outlet. I have the film camera I've been using since a kid, and then I have another 35 millimeter, like old one my grandpa gave me. So I try to separate them. So I keep the 35 millimeter, I keep always on me, and then the Z6 I tuck away for like business for the most part. Yeah.
Dope. Corey?
Everything.
You use everything. Yeah,
No, but I actually started out with disposable cameras because, like, we talked about who actually helped us pattern our styles or who we looked up to. A lot of those guys started out in film, just like Molly's saying. And them starting out in film, I used to go into record stores and look at records. Those records that they actually had, you needed to know lighting. You needed to know certain things about photography instead of it being you just going to shoot. You had to understand what you were actually seeing, what lighting you wanted to see, the whole nine. So, like, for me, that's been the biggest thing. It doesn't matter for me what equipment. It's just the understanding of ISOs and depth of field and all that other stuff. Once you start understanding that, then that's when everything comes into play.
Yeah, because I have a hard time with that stuff.
Yeah.
To really start getting
I did too when I first started. Because remember, I didn't go to school. I taught myself this. Yeah.
Same.
We all,
I still be like, I don't know what the hell that shit does, but this picture look good.
See?
You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
But interesting. Okay, real quick, what you kind of just flashed to something that when I was asking about influence.
Yeah.
That I want to step back on. So you were talking about album covers.
Yep.
So for me, I know you also know this about me. Like, I love album covers. Album covers influence a lot of my work.
Right.
And so, and that's what I grew up on. That's what I kind of, I guess you said, ingested as like, information is like, this is like, this is dope. How do you make things look like?
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's go back to this one more time.
Please.
We're talking about influence.
Yeah.
Where where are you? And we're talking about music also.
Yeah.
So music and album covers. How was that influence you? I'm going a little bit off of.
No, that's perfect. That's right
I
on.
love it, actually.
So we'll start with Molly because she's got the
Yes.
DMX. The DMX.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, son, getting a cannoli or whatever he was doing at that time.
He's getting ice cream. But that was after Roots Picnic in 2016. He performed. I just caught him outside the gates. I'm like, that's what's up. Music. I'm really happy you bring this up because I would say probably music inspires me more than other people's photography work. No offense, like my first artistry was playing piano. I started when I was 5 years old. So I'm a classic pianist, but then, and this goes back to the Every Rose Has Its Thorns, I started curating events. And that's how I started being more known for photography, because I take pictures of my own events. So all of different mediums really inspire me, but especially music because I feel like when you listen to music, you have a feeling, and I kind of get inspired visually. Not kind of, I 100% get inspired visually when I'm listening to music, and just what I'm seeing. Often that's when I just have ideas come to me off the top of my head. Yeah, and just to name a few, probably more recently, like Tame Impala. I'm a huge Lil Uzi Vert fan, of course, having spent time in Philly. There's a lot of different artists now. Y&J, he's like a new guy out of Flint. Yeah. Just the sounds inspire me, and there's actually a part of Logic. I've done music production as well. There's a part of Logic called EQ, and you can actually see sounds and like how they shift and everything. And that also inspired me for when I do music videos, and help me be able to like fine tune certain things within my visual artistry. Yeah.
Back to you, sir. A little bit more on this album cover, music influence, because you know you got your Yo piece, which is like is emblematic of the iconic Yo MTV Raps logo, but not, you know what I'm saying? Somebody drew it on the wall real quick, but it's also it pops. So you know what I'm saying? Your influences.
Again, for mine, it would be for me, not mine. For me, it would be more street. Like the street element of everything I see is like speaks to me, but it also creates music. So in it creating music, that's where I actually start to pick up my style, start seeing things I like, things I want to shoot. So the Yo piece, just like you said, it came from my childhood. Me growing up in Yo MTV Rap era, when I walk down the street and I see something that resonates with my childhood, immediately I start, I take the shot. Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that from both of y'all. You can see it. We can actually see it in the pieces. Like it's so my thing about when me and Adrian, the owner of Art of Noize, discussed Mr. Ferguson, as we call him, around Hip Balls. When we first were discussing the show and bringing photographers in, we talked about the dichotomy, the difference between you two guys' styles, and how there's a point where they meet, and it's also to me, I would say they resonate. To me, it's like an old school, new school thing. Corey's the old one here. Definitely he's the old one. But the thing was,
I'm not old.
It's both music. It's musical. Like when I look at both styles, to me it's musical. I see music. Like I can literally hear both. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's dope.
Like Corey sounds like M.O.P. He sounds actually.
Thank you. That's a great.
It sounds like Premier.
That's my favorite group. Yeah,
like
that's my
Premier
favorite.
picture photos.
That's my favorite. Damn, that's pretty dope.
Uzi Vert or like, and I wouldn't even say Lil Uzi Vert. For me, it's kind of like a little bit more like Tyler the Creator's.
Yes.
Like somebody in his crew was like, "Yo, Molly need to hang with us all the time," and he was like, "Okay." So when I see that, so, you know what I'm saying? So when I see the photos from both of you guys, I get this whole, I get this balance of music in my head. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I just wanted to go.
You stayed there. You were right there with
I just
it.
wanted to say that I really appreciate both of y'all works. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
All this. Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Boss said it's cool. Put these photos up. Even the one with the donuts, even your donuts image is.
It's a moment again.
It's hip hop though.
Right.
It's like when I look at it, it looks like hip hop. So, and then you have Molly. You have one that I really thought was beautiful. Is the guy with the I don't know what that one's called, but he's holding a torch.
Yeah.
What's it called? The torch holder?
Fire
torch.
He had made one on a stick, put like
Yeah.
a t-shirt on
but
it.
it actually has like this, like that's like
Album cover.
Yeah. What's the Grief album? Who was that? What album? Who was that? Earl.
The sweatshirt.
Earl sweatshirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I can see it. You know what I'm saying? So
That's pretty dope. Yeah.
That's a very important idea of this show at Art of Noize.
See, I gotta get more interviewee like you. I gotta get more interviewee like you. That was a great analogy to that picture, man. Yeah.
Shout out. I can't shout out who I was going to shout out.
He's terrible for real.
We gotta get more
Shout out
interviewing.
Weed. You can cut that part out. Shout out to Weed because it made me ask that question. All right, so we can get on to the next question. And actually, you can leave that in, man. It's 2020, brother. And
It's who we are.
It's pandemic. It's a pandemic, so. Thanks, man. We can be organic with this part. The next question I had was for you guys was, what motivates you to continue taking pictures, economically, politically, intellectually, or emotionally? Like, what are the things that are like motivating you to take photos, to get out there tomorrow? You know what I'm saying? Is it your kids? Is it just you just doing it? You're doing it for the culture.
Exactly.
You're doing it for the culture. You're doing this because you love it. Like, what's motivating you to shoot tomorrow or this afternoon when you leave?
For me, it's the moments.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I walk out this door and I see something that I really like or feel, then I shoot it. But it's also my daughter, but it's also like what Molly just said, and I'm glad she used Dave LaChapelle. To be able to be in a space sort of like Art of Noise, shout out to Adrian. Now, to be in a space like this gallery, you have ability to shoot, tear it down, and then build it up again. And I think that, for me, is the biggest thing to actually staying with photography as well as film, is actually being able to create your own. Not that I don't want to shoot for people, but at the end of the day, I still want to always be able to create my own series, create my own everything, because that's how you get seen. Right. So I try to stay with this film.
It's your voice.
Yes,
it's your voice.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's the big thing.
I said all that for the voice.
Right, it's your voice. And I mean, don't let me put words in your mouth.
Nope.
I thought that's what you were getting.
You help that out all the time.
That's how we do it.
I've been knowing you for like 2 hours.
Art of Noise is how we do it. For you, Molly.
Definitely, I feel like it's something that is just a part of me, and so I try to use that to make money, but it's not my I'm not motivated to do it just to make money.
Right.
I try my best to make money doing it, but I got many hustles. So this one is honestly sometimes on the back burner when those other ones are popping, and vice versa. So I think it really is just what I love to do and what I think about, and just creating the vision in my head to like executing it. That's just like what I live for in so many different ways. So if I can do that by taking pictures, then as long as I have that feeling, I'm gonna keep doing it.
That's it. It's cool. Next question, and it's kind of like, I'm staying in the same vein with these questions. So if you feel it's repetitive, you can be like, nah, I already answered that. You know what I'm saying? You can say what you need to say. But what are some of the things you want the In the Moment exhibition to accomplish for you?
That's a great question.
I mean, is this your step? Is this your step to stardom? Is this how you gonna, are you setting people up to give them weed packs when they leave? I mean, what is it? What is this? What is in the end? What is this? And it's not like end all be all.
Right.
It's more so like, what did you want to accomplish with this show? We'll start with Molly this time.
Definitely just inspiring not only other people but also myself, because kind of when you knock one thing off of your creative list, then it kind of motivates you to do the next one. And so, this is not my first art show, but it definitely inspires me when I'm able to show my work, especially with other artists, and being able to talk to people about it. That just like keeps me going. And hopefully, especially in this quarantine situation, I feel very blessed to have a platform to be able to do this right now. I know a lot of people either don't feel equipped mentally right now or with their resources. So I just hope that I can at least inspire those people to try to find a way or hit up Art of Noise to show their work.
Court?
For me, it's just to continue to do, like Molly said, the work and inspire. But like Molly said as well, for Art of Noise to give us this opportunity and this platform to do this is so inspiring, because, like we said, in a COVID situation, it feels like you don't know when the next creative moment's going to come. And so this, for me, is actually giving me that push to actually keep going. Even though when you don't have all the major platforms, you can just keep doing it and do it wherever and however you want to do it, as long as it's authentic.
And I want to thank everybody for maintaining social distancing. Also, y'all stay 6 feet away. Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't mean to cut you off either. I wanted to give a big shout out to all the Noize for doing this too, and for bringing me and Molly in to do a collaborative photography show. So I appreciate
thank you.
Adrian and
Shout
all
out
the
you
Noize for
guys.
that. Yeah,
Mr.
definitely.
Ferguson, as we call him.
Yeah.
In the facility. We call him. All right, here's the next question. It goes off the COVID. It goes still with the whole COVID thing. And then we're going to kind of, I guess I'm going to do a few minutes. If you don't mind, Mr. Ferguson, we'll just kind of let us just talk. And we'll get that on film, tape, video, whatever they call it these days. Whatever the kids call it now.
Streaming media.
Streaming media. The last question is also a COVID question, COVID-related question. But the COVID question is, COVID-19 has changed all of us and our daily routines. What impact has it had on your photography? I'm gonna let Molly start this one off.
Well, prior to COVID, I did a lot of events. I produced events that I usually hired someone to take pictures at, but I also, one of the ways that I made money was shooting events. So, and that comes in with like how I love to take candid photos. During this time, we're not able to have events, so that's really the biggest way that it's impacted my photography. But I'm not 100% mad at that. Maybe just a little bit, lucratively, of course. But I really enjoy the conceptual photography more. So it's giving me a chance to be able to tap into that again more. So I'm appreciative. It's a silver lining in all of this.
Right. So here's my question. I'm gonna stick with Molly for a second, Corey. Mind yourself. So my question also, well, it's more so my thought process, and of course, this is going to start us into a discussion.
Yeah.
But my thought process is that I throw parties and events, or I threw parties and events prior to COVID, right? And I was known to be at the bar, behind the bar, as a barkeep, not a bartender. I keep from falling apart. But it was the idea that because of what occurred with COVID, it actually forced me to, it didn't force me, it gave me the opportunity to do more work and to want to focus on the work. And then after a while, habits take 21 days. And so, right, and so I think with me, I think what happened was it helped force some habits that I dibbled and dabbled on making sure I got the work done, and I would get into little frenzies, but then it became just, 9 a.m. till whatever, you know what I'm saying, and then the rest of the night, and I know it's getting rest because you're trying not to die from COVID, so I don't know if I can say that on film, but you know what I'm saying, but it gave me like a real structure. So, so you said it's a silver lining, but do you think it's actually help with your eye or help with you creating or thinking about your process or being more involved in your process? I'm just asking.
It's more so a time thing for me because I still have to run a business outside of just taking pictures, right? I have employees. So it's my pivot had to do to and to get back into more of a creative mode. But it definitely, like you said, it was more of an opportunity for me to pivot. And what was the second part of your question?
I don't know.
We were just rolling.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it was rolling. But
Yeah.
But that's just that whole thing. Like, did it influence your process? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
It just allowed more time for me to do the process that I wanted to do in the first place,
Right.
I guess. Because a lot of times I had to like cut corners or like cancel something or prioritize differently, and the creative stuff, personal projects can be lower on the priority scale than the client projects and the ones you're really making money at or accountable to someone else for. So it really just enabled me to have more leeway into how I want to execute my projects rather than being limited on time.
Corey, how about you, man?
Same. Definitely time. It made me more respectable in my work. It slowed me down in a way where, now you have time now to look at your work opposed to just creating the work and then wanting people to see it for that next level. Like, you know what I mean? Because there's never no personal gain for people to see it, but then there's a personal gain. Like, so it slowed me down for the time, but also gave me the ability to actually start focusing more on my series. And creating your own thing versus trying to do what everybody else is doing. I don't know if this is going to get off the subject, but I was when I walk the streets, and I'm always on the streets because I ride a fixed gear bike through the city, this, that, and the other. When I'm on the streets, before COVID, we used to have a feeling. Right. Like when you saw a Porsche or what you call them, and the person getting out of it, I don't have that feeling no more because everybody got the mask on. Right. So you've taken away a feeling that we used to have, and now we're able to focus more on time, art, our health, our family. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's definitely that.
You didn't get off. That wasn't too far from the subject.
Yeah.
I would have totally told him to cut if that was the case. Cut the tape.
Right.
So
but no, I'm so visual. Like I feel like you have several ways to communicate in the world. Auditorio, what is it called when you talk through your mouth?
Audible.
Yeah. And then for me, I'm a visual person. So I don't have great words. That's why I don't do a lot of interviews. Because I can see what I want to say. If I'm not feeling it, I can't say it. Or if I'm not high, I can't say it.
Again, shout out to Weed, our sponsor. Anyway. So I don't know. I really want to talk to y'all about and I guess it's like in these very charged political, and not just political times, but political and cultural times. How has it helped or hindered your work? And this goes back to the whole thing about, and we're still dealing with the whole thing about your influences, but more so like on a deeper level. We know that COVID has been a whole, like it's really affected all of us, right? In one way, shape, or form.
Right.
It's affected your families, it's affected your businesses, and then you've also had the elections, which was a very charged time with a lot going on, and we had the protests during the summer. We had riots, we had deaths due to police. We had a whole list of things that happened. Did it affect your work? You know what I'm saying? Like, did it affect you? So for me, and I use myself as an example, I know during the election period, it actually shut me down because there was just so much going on, so much energy I didn't want to create. Like, I was just like, it's just too much energy. No, I can't even get this out. I have to wait. So I had to kind of like take it in and wait. But in other times, like early on in COVID, I was actually very like, I can just create. I create anything now.
Right.
So I'm asking Molly first again, and then I'll get to you.
Definitely.
But like, I mean, has it helped with creating, or has it like taken away from creating? Is it like, you know, and of course, I'm sure it influences like travel too. So.
That's a really good question. It's been a little bit of both, and I've really had to come to terms with that, given the state of the world and, you know, people that I know, people around me, and having a lot of limitations, there's kind of like a to and fro. So like, you know, during this year, I've had to really deal with some anxiety and just like, you know, having ideas, but like you said, you kind of take a time out when the energy is too high because it's too stressful to try to focus on something that's so dark and negative and then trying to create. And sometimes you can create out of that space, but sometimes you can't. So what I did is I tried to create where I felt inspired and not try to force it. I really wasn't creating to my fullest capabilities, not even maybe 20% I was operating from my full capable creative capacity up until like around June when the protests started. But I was so inspired to do something that I started doing flyers for protests, and then I started curating events like paint and protest. So I worked with Occupy DC. We basically started organizing protests, and I would handle like the creative aspects. Then we started curating events. So I was curating events, something that I wasn't able to do for COVID, but it was with a purpose. And I was still able to take pictures, and do graphics with a purpose. And so that kind of helped me get back into a space where I could feel comfortable creating on my own again. And that didn't really happen until about August, and I'm kind of slowly easing into it. I'd say I'm about 80% now.
Okay, about 80%.
Yeah, I'm about 80 to 90. Like sometimes, some days I got to be 120, but it's a lot better now. But
we're a good 9 months in now, so
Yeah.
so that makes sense. Corey, what about you, bro?
I have three things that I'm really interested in life besides my daughter, and that's food, video, and photography. When one of those start to lax, I go to the other side.
Right.
So when this whole thing happened, because I'm older and I've seen protests and I've seen how all this plays out, the other part too is I try not to be an opportunist to everything. So when I started seeing so many people get involved in what was going on, if I don't feel it, I can't do it. So I stopped taking pictures altogether.
Right.
I didn't take any pictures of protests. I started taking pictures of food. I started cooking more.
Right.
But other than that,
That's funny because me, so I was like, fuck this. Excuse my language, Mr. Ferguson. He'll cut that out. But I'm kind of like, like I've been doing. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see like you're from a younger generation. Molly's a younger generation than us. I'm the second oldest here. Anyway, so the whole thing is that I understand the protest. Understand why the younger generations were out there protesting, being a part of it. And I also understood that I've been like creating protest posters and stuff like that for like 20 some years. And I did what you did, right? I basically was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go up here and draw some people being happy.
Right.
I'm just gonna draw some hands, some
Right.
people floating, something like that. I didn't feel like drawing guns anymore. You know what I'm saying? Or creating graphics with guns, or anything. Anyway.
changing the narrative.
Yeah, changing the narrative. I think it's important that you get these different. So this, like I said, it's like this. The two of y'all coming together for this show, it reflects that energy of like there's kind of like this youthful exuberance, and then the stoicism of being elderly.
But the elderly portion, I'll speak to that. What's funny about my elderly portion is we talked about influences, and influences for me being older in photography, they come from the younger generation.
Right, yeah.
I feel like the older generation is scared. Like they'll go and grab something and hold on to it for 30 years, whereas the younger generation, they'll actually take it and actually flip it. And like Molly said, okay, I got this happening, but you stay focused on all of them. One of the things that people don't talk about as far as economics and your hustle is you have to be doing everything. So in doing everything, you have to create a love in it.
Right.
And it sounds like Molly did that. And for me, when I hear the younger generation, that's what they do for me.
Right.
Because the older generations, under my age, under my tutelage, they ain't doing that.
Right.
I hear you, because I'm 30, so I'm not like a young bull, but I'm young. To y'all, I am. So, but I'm old enough to have my own young bulls and a kid. So, like now I'm at the age where I'm starting to see my peers fall off, or my peers prioritize their 9 to 5 and stop chasing their dreams, or maybe fall back from them. And so it's really interesting because I think about like for instance, my mom really inspires me. My mom was a model and a singer, and she didn't go pursue her dream to take care of me. And so I think about like, I have to do this for her. Like she's helping me, like, I really have this like opportunity now. But I just think about all of the people that kind of get to that place, and it's very interesting just being at this point where like, cause sometimes I feel like I could fall off any day now, but I'm like, no, I'm like in this, like I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
Think about Pusha T, like he got on for real when he was like 34. So
He been
That's
around for a while. They was
Right.
They was selling like they was like never mind. I can't even say that.
Yep.
Anyway, they was doing things and handing out flyers for the longest like that. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
So they from the Norfolk area.
Yep.
What's that? The Virginia Road. Was that Hampton Roads area?
Yep.
Shout out to Hampton University. I went there, so I know the area.
You know the
man.
vibes.
I'm just messing it all up, but it's Hampton Roads area. So Norfolk, Denby.
Oh, I got you.
All that. You know that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think this is kind of like, this is a good conversation to have, y'all. Like,
Well, let me say something. I didn't mean to cut you off.
moving. No, go ahead, brother.
I don't want to actually just dispel my older generation too. I'm sounding like I'm kind of upset with it, but this goes back to what Molly's saying. I'm 51 years old. I've been doing this now for over 15 years. I will never stop because at the end of the day, a job can end. Your art will never end. As long as you stay committed and driven to it, you always be able to do.
Yeah, and I'm gonna drop in real quick because I just want to say one thing. That feeling, you said you had that feeling you could fall off any day. Yeah, I've been feeling that shit for
Always.
like 20, how old am I? 46, going on
8,
47.
9.
Right, I'm 47. I'll be 47. Anyway, I will say that I've been feeling that shit since I was decided I was just going to be a graphic designer. That was when my stage when I was just going to be a graphic designer and work for myself. And then on, it's like you never stop feeling like you're going to fall off, but it's like walking that tightrope. And that tightrope feels good when you finally get somebody sees your work, like you've been working hard, and somebody comes by and is like, yo, that's dope. And you're like, that's my bullshit, son. I don't even care about that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like that idea, like you continue to go, like you continue to move. And I think that's important, and that keeps you, that's the part where it's like, and that's being present, and that's being like aware of what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Aware, you guys have a sense of awareness because you want to keep creating. You know that if you don't just do what you need to do next, you won't be able to create, but that's always, it's in the back of your head somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
For real, I'm only referring to falling off with myself because it's really just, am I able to do what I want or no? Yep. And so I'm never going to give up on trying to like be me, which is creating shit. So stuff.
Yeah. And that's really like, it's really dope to even hear you say that and to hear you say that. And we've had conversations before, so it's kind of the same page, but it's kind of like, it's good to hear people actually express that because that's the part of the work that needs to be expressed to our audiences more often. Instead of just being cool or whatever, it's the part about like, yo, like, because people take this stuff as, and we're not going to go on too long, I'm sorry, but people think that your portfolio or what you show is like all you had to do to get here.
Right.
Like they think this truncated bit of work. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. So that's why if we have just a few more minutes to talk, Mr. Ferguson, it's the whole thing. Like for me, and Corey knows me, I have this whole thing with authenticity sometimes and it goes too far.
Same.
Yeah, and so this is the last question I'm gonna ask y'all. It's like, how do you balance the authenticity with the show? You know what I'm saying? Like, because part of what we do as creatives, artists is like it's like being a magician, right? Doing magic. So people are like, yo, that was dope what they did, but they don't understand what went on to get to that point. So how do you balance the show with the actual like, nah, babe, this was 20 photos and that girl almost drowned. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I just want to ask you that. How do you balance those two things?
I don't know if I fully understood your question, but I'm going to try to answer in the best way I can. I definitely am so involved with my process to with this project, right? This show, we talked about how to hang the work. It wasn't just like someone hung the work, but I said where I wanted it to go. So there's reasons why I do everything, and often my hands are in it to the point of the delivery or the part, the marketing, the part that you're like, oh wow, you're doing all these things, and they're just seeing this product. But my blood, sweat, and tears not only went into the product, but went into the marketing of it, went into the development, the hiring of the people, involved, right? And so there's so many dimensions that I'm really putting my creativity into. What I've learned is to not really worry about the people that are seeing it just as this one-dimensional thing. And what I love is when people who might not even do what we do just know that what I did took a lot of work. And when they look at it and they can really look at me in the eye and say like, "Yo, I see you."
Yeah.
That is, and like when I can feel that they know what I actually had to do to get there. Then that's when I really appreciate that. Yeah, authenticity. That's really like a huge part of my art, and who I am as a person. And so it's just real, recognize real in this situation. So if someone is seeing my work as one-dimensional, or like they just see this picture, right? Because social media, especially my generation, is the worst, and they just think this one thing, it click, whatever, like if they want to. But if they're willing to like ask questions or actually be engaged, of course I'm gonna share with them what went into it. But if they don't, then oh well.
That might be a difference in your generation, because you guys will be like, you'll get 1,000 likes and then you'll be like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Where I'll be like, you deserve this like. Oh! Right. Anyway, no, but let me ask you the same question though. So how do you balance the authenticity and the show?
I don't.
I know you don't.
Yeah, I don't.
I know he doesn't balance the two. That's because that's actually.
I don't know if there is a problem.
Well, for me, it's I'll say this: I stop my own success by authenticity over economics. Only because if I can't feel it, I can't do it. So it feels like it's going to be a forced job or forced work to me. And then as soon as an artist, I start losing focus on it. That's not the person's fault, it's mine. But I don't ever want to do anything that I'm not authentically feeling. So when it comes to shows like this, like Molly said, I've done other shows. The show has always been for me at the end or at the beginning when I can sit down and look at the work on my wall and know what you just said. I know what I had to do to get this. Like Molly said, I don't really think about it. So my biggest event is if my friends come. Certain people who like my stuff, I'll be like this. It could be one like, but if I see that it's a Buck or a Sneak Shot or Adrian, I'll be like this. Oh shit, they see me. They see this nigga.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting, within the process, because it's like the show is important.
Yes.
The show is important.
Yeah.
The show is like, that's how you get work sold. That's how you economically
People see
get reinforced, so you can get back out there and continue to do what you do. But if you lose any authenticity, is there any point? I'm sorry, Mr. Ferguson, I'm asking one more question, boss man. We're gonna wrap it up after this. But do you feel like when you're showing, after the show, when you go back and look at your work, do you feel like you have the do you ever feel like you may lose any of that authenticity because of what sold or what people were most attracted to at that show? So you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Like, so let's say somebody loves your roses photo, right? Mm-hmm. And they like, yo, you need to keep doing that. Do you only do those for the next 6 months, or do you like, yo, fuck that, let's gotta create?
Yeah, quite bluntly, has nothing to do with what I want to keep doing. I'm like, I pay attention, but I have not really seen enough trends between, it's just different people, different walks of life that might appreciate one photo more than another. Like I see that I sold Blue For You, which a lot of people had a lot of good feedback, but my most sold photo is the one above it with the guy holding the two guns. Wow. I've always sold that at every show. So, but I'm not like I'm gonna go shoot more, because I actually stopped taking pictures with guns because I got feedback from someone to not do that anymore. Right. But honest, that was an authenticity moment, because I was like, that's what I'm into. So like, so that's what I want to take pictures of, right? But back to your question, I definitely feel like there's a connection between someone who looks at my work and is enticed by it and they want to purchase it. That's organic and that is authentic. Right. And I'm very thankful for that. And honestly, I kind of feel like when you're a music artist, they say your music belongs to the people at that point.
Yeah.
Once you show your work, that's kind of how it is. And so it's not my business even how they interpret it. If they interpret it the way that I even set out to, that's not my business. So however, if they want to buy it and they take it in their home, more power to
I had a hard time
them.
with that. I used to be like, nah, son, it don't mean that. It don't mean that at all. You know what I'm saying?
I battled with that too. But
I used to too.
I battled with it because until a client at one of the showings that I had at the coffee shop walked up, and it's a shot that I shot in Boston, and it was a light on the inside, and then there was a homeless person sleeping on the outside. And I don't know if you guys remember Turnstiles, because Buck's kind of old.
Yeah, Turnstiles.
So Turnstiles, there was a dude on the other side. So there was a guy standing in front of the poster, and he was just looking at the photograph for like, I want to say like 3 minutes. And so I walked up and I asked him what it meant to him. He was like, that inside, that light actually said, I could have stopped at life if I wouldn't have walked through that gate. And it messed me up so much because at the end of the day, here's something that I shot and had a different view of, and he had that whole view. So it goes back to what Molly said. The energy and authenticness that I love is when somebody can look at it and come up with their own idea.
Right.
Not look at it and try to break down, well, you could have shot it with this light and shot it with this lens and this. Nah, I didn't ask you for that. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't think anybody's putting their work up for that. Like,
Yeah, no. I think that's. I'd like to thank Corey and Molly for coming out and telling us more about your work. This is In the Moment at Art of Noise. The show is up through December 14th. Contact us to come out and view the work.
Thank you. This is the credits. This is the credits.
you can see it in his face.